there are some changes coming to the website, and that is the first space that I tend to go to because it is really the portfolio. It is the kind of the blueprint and the kind of the map of the business and everything that we offer, and really the space where the most information is. And social media then becomes, yes, a way for me to kind of speak to specific points and draw those out and expand on those a little bit. But I think it's interesting to step into different presentation modes to kind of communicate what we're doing. So yes, showing up in practitioner way is important, but it's also important for me to show up and kind of name that entrepreneurial learning process, and to kind of share and speak to that a little bit as well, because I think, the two cross over, but I think it's useful to speak to that, and then also to be bringing in more so my identity as a creative practitioner and an artist, because that is the foundation or background that I come from. So a really good way to help bridge the space between these spaces, if you like, is to then align with an anchor or a principle that can help everything else come into a sense of coherence. So this way of working with a North Star principle is something that has been in development for a while, and it was just to comment on the sense of the space that you enter into to really connect with and orientate yourself with something, to test it out, to practice it, to live it and breathe it and feel how it responds and morphs and grows with you and changes in a way to see if it is going to stand the test of time. Is it something that you are going to be able to continue to connect with on a personal level, but also in a way that is deep enough and expansive enough to invite you into growth, so that when you choose to share this alignment piece, or this focal point or orientation and direction of travel, that you can bring other people with you, and that you can speak to that in a variety of ways, so that it becomes something that is inspirational and activating, and makes you feel like you are willing and wanting to move towards it, because it connects with something within you. So what I've been doing in the last since I have come to this concept, it has come to me first and foremost personally, and then there has been that process of bridging to then translate that into my artistic life, and then there has been that bridging to try and translate that into what would that look like in the context of facilitation and a teaching space. And then the kind of final layer, which is where I'm at now and what I'm sharing today, is how would this look and sit in the context of the business itself and what the aim or the kind of the goal is in terms of what we are trying to support and offer to clients. So as you can hear, there are lots of layers to that, and between each layer there is then this kind of space to bridge in your confidence and trust and capacity of, as I grow and stretch, what work needs to happen on an internal level so that I can maintain this new shape or this new territory or new dimension that I'm stretching into. And I suppose that in itself is quite a good description of what it is like to be in business, like being offered opportunities all the time to stretch and grow. And yeah, it's quite a journey. So there's also this interesting thing around the parallel aspect of visibility, as this process of growth and development is happening, because it's not always linear. It can be messy. It can and often is uncomfortable or exposing, challenging, and revealing or speaking to that aspect is not necessarily something that is done often, or it's done retrospectively, because the vulnerability side of it is kind of like, you don't want to show or reveal when something is difficult. So I think it is good to speak to these things though. And it's also this sense of when we're working on something and we're refining it and exploring it and testing it, there is a part of that space that does feel like it is dedicated towards nurturing your connection to that idea, to the point that becomes really strong. It becomes kind of unshakable, and it becomes something that is totally personal to you, so that the point at which you feel you've done the additional stretching and capacity piece to then share it. And by the way, the sharing, it's by no means in the perfect, polished, absolute end point, especially as it is pertaining to business development. It goes without saying that it's a continual process of refinement and tweaking. So this idea of like a complete end point, shiny object, I can't totally agree with. So this sense that it's at a state of readiness, or that more so you are at a state of readiness where you can then say, oh look, here's this thing that's been gestating. It's ready enough that I can speak to it conceptually, but also tangibly, because I've been playing with it, exploring it, putting it into practice. And that means that, all the things that actually contribute towards this resistance to share, which are often about a worry of how something will be received, what if it's misunderstood, what if someone doesn't like it, and it's your baby, that can stop us from sharing. And actually, at some point, you're going to have to bring it to the table. So translating those challenges or those blocks into the personal development work that needs to happen to strengthen that connection and understanding and relationship to the very thing that you are working on, that offers you then a really strong foundation so that when it is shared, when it is exposed to someone else, they might be coming from a completely different perspective. It might not spark for them, it might not resonate with their view of the world or their approach or way of doing things. Somebody might say, I don't understand it, or kind of healthfully challenge it, or they might even have a visceral or emotional response to what you've shared. But you've got enough of a sense of integrity with that connection through the play and experimentation that you've been doing, that only becomes fuel to either support refinement and further development if, you know, that person that's questioning something is your ideal target, or that you really, really want to speak to them or convince them, like, this is a really good thing that I think would support you, that it doesn't become a heavy weight for you to carry. It doesn't shake the core of your connection to this thing, because you've already built that relationship with it. You're already it's part of you, and you are nourished by it. So that takes time. That process does take time. And I think what I'm acknowledging here is that as long as we are clear on our motivations for, you know, when we choose to share something, this idea of sharing when you feel ready is can be counterintuitive, in the sense of doing anything that is new can feel uncomfortable. So there's that aspect of rising to the challenge of stepping into discomfort, and that acknowledging that doesn't necessarily have to mean grave danger or threat. But equally, the wisdom that you have in terms of when is the right time, at what point will I be best resourced to be able to speak to this, to be able to ensure that this lands with impact in a positive, helpful, constructive way. You know, it's not it's not going to cause chaos, either because you are actually not ready to receive feedback on it, or there hasn't been enough development in the stretching of capacity to like hold the shape of this new space that you're trying to play in, because that feeling of revealing and then immediately contracting is not nice. It's like, you know, back to when you were at school and maybe you've said something, you blurted something out, and then you immediately get a red face. It's kind of like that feeling of suddenly you wish the ground would swallow you up. So in the realm of business land, that is a horrible feeling. So there's that sense of trying to like titrate the approach so that you're moving, yes, in a kind of stepwise motion towards your ultimate goals, but like doing so in a way that is sustainable and complementary to the internal processing and work that maybe needs to accompany that. So sing free. this is personally my my own anchor point, my own North Star. And for me, that means it's about fully realizing my creative potential. That's something that I aspire towards. It's something that keeps me going when there's maybe doubt starting to creep in, or a sense of disconnection from a creative project. It's something that reminds me of, like, why am I here? What am I doing? What is the point? And it's so integrated that it needs to be a daily reminder. I need to be meeting this, communicating with this, engaging with this, being prompted by this as much as I can, because I have certain personal goals in my creative life and my artistic life that I know are not going to happen tomorrow. So I need something to keep me going. So how does this translate to the business then? Because what I have decided to do is bring this over into how can there be a North Star principle that communicates what we're trying to do as a business. So that has been explored, expressed, experimented with in one-to-one sessions with clients, because then that becomes about how do we connect with what you are interested in and what you are being called towards, what is going to help activate you towards your highest calling. And it might not be to sing free, it might be to play fully or to dance vibrantly. So for the individual, it's an activation to their highest calling. For the business, that for me at the moment is about being in service to freedom of expression. So we're offering services, training resources, and educational tools to support and facilitate development in this area. So it has been a process to arrive at this point of articulation, but this is a shared orienting principle, and I'm mentioning it now because it's kind of like breaking the ice on that, and it's opening the door and setting the tone for how there will be shifts going forward in terms of the messaging, how ultimately we're communicating our offerings and what we do. And yeah, so it feels like quite an exciting time to kind of bring that into a kind of more coherent space and to allow that to be a part of the expression of this business. Because for me personally, it was born out of a sense of there are often blocks or barriers or things that we feel that are obstructing our path or our channel, our vocal channel. And so there has been experiences where the response to that and the kind of survival instinct has been directly around removing those blocks and knocking them down and actually overcoming them in order to keep going, to keep breathing, to keep expressing, to keep vocalizing, to keep singing, to keep using my voice. So that has been born out of personal struggle for me. So to translate that into artistry and how you choose to present yourself as an artist, there's a way that you can play with that and dance with that where it's kind of one step removed, because there's ways for you to play and explore a concept or a call to action that are directly connected to this sense of, do I have an alter ego in an artist identity, or am I playing a role, or am I aligning myself with a specific archetype as a performer? So it gives you a chance to explore and experiment with this idea of stepping into or putting on the shoes of a more confident version of yourself, you know, maybe when you need there to be a kind of next level of yourself to kind of look towards, of like, I'm here right now and I feel like this is challenging and I can see all of the blocks along the way and I need something to kind of call me forward and rally me and inspire me. So that's how I've been playing with it in my artistic life and kind of beginning to disseminate that concept and to share that and to name it, articulate it, and also just present it as a kind of visual concept or like a brand identity. And then to go from there to then bringing it into a creative education business space, that has been where the most work and development has been required of me, really, because it's then about separating like the origin point of that, the evolution of that in your personal artistic life that's kind of wrapped up with your identity or your kind of therapeutic process as an individual, but then kind of being like, okay, well, there's something here that can be translated, or there is some wisdom here or some medicine, something that that can serve others and can be in service of others and in service of this idea of freedom of expression. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to someone I'm holding space for? What does that mean for someone who is curious about developing their voice and strengthening their relationship with their voice? So that has been like a whole process and a whole journey in itself of like really kind of trying to chip away at that, of like, can this translate? Is it appropriate? And how will that be received or interpreted? You know, thinking about who your ideal client is and whether that language and that visual expression of an idea is going to resonate. So here we are. And yeah, I feel confident that this is the next stage of development. And as I said at the beginning, it's this thing of, that is kind of putting a pin on a starry map, you know, of like, this is our direction of travel, this is where we're trying to go, this is what we are offering, and trusting that that is then exactly the expression that needs to come forward to call in those who want to come and play and explore and discover, you know, what does that mean for me? Because sing free to me is different to sing free for you. So on that note, a long and winding exploration of, yes, this like journey of excavation over the last 4 years. So it's also like, just to say, you know, to other business owners out there who are kind of playing in this space of, who are we, what are our values, what do we stand for, how do we communicate it, what's our messaging, like it's not an overnight process. It might not take you 4 years, but it's all valid. Like every nook and cranny and crevice that you're being asked of yourself to explore, if you're willing to do the work, it is all worthwhile and it's all grist to the mill. So, you know, don't give up, keep going. And yes, more to follow, more to follow.